Maddie Sorenson. We're here in your apartment doing my first podcast. I don't have a name just yet, so what would be some good suggestions? What do you think I should call this?
The Coldcast.
The Coldcast? The Coldcast. That's actually not a bad title. I feel like
it's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's got a little ring to it.
Yeah, it's unique because a lot of people take too much time trying to think of what they're gonna name.
Well, that's
something.
the thing. I feel like that's the problem. Is a lot of people have to come up with something super creative, but the simpler it is, the more it's easier to remember.
Mm-hmm. Because what does your yoga practice? It's a business, right?
I'd say so.
Did you have to give it a name?
And that's the thing, is for a long time I thought about, what am I going to name this? I thought I was just trying to be super creative with it, and then I realized, oh, my dog's name is Atlas. Atlas Yoga. Hey, that works. That brings in all kinds of people. It's a roadmap, and for yoga, that's kind of a...
Mm-hmm. Now, are you a freelancer? Do you just get, people that come in, I was almost about to say recruit, but, how do you get jobs? Because you don't just teach at one place. You were going to do it at Sluggers.
Yeah.
You were just down in West Des Moines
so
today.
I think the biggest thing is just starting. And once you start something that you're passionate about, then people are going to realize that you're passionate about something, and they're going to want you to teach their classes too.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at someone, think of something that you want to learn, then think of someone that is really good about something that you want to learn. You want to learn from them. And I think the reason that being is because you can see their passion with what they're creating.
Mm-hmm.
And I created Yoga in the Sculpture Park is what I started doing. And then from there, actually someone in the sculpture park was like, hey, I do classes here and here. You should start teaching over here. So I, immediately went on that, because that's kind of what the sculpture park was for me. It was just a starting path, and then it just led from word of mouth.
So is that how you got into yoga, or was it what sparked your interest to do it? Just from your own experience, going and doing yoga a few times, you're like, this is what I want to do?
I remember the first time I ever did yoga, I was like, what the hell is this? I'm not coming back. That lady's touching her toes. I can't even touch the ground. I couldn't touch my toes. I could barely make it to my shin. And actually, after my brother passed away, I was like, okay, I need something to keep my mind occupied, because it was just going into places that I didn't want it to go to. So I was like, okay, I'll try yoga again. Life is really short, and I had a map of things that I wanted to try. Yoga was one. I wanted to try rock climbing, just different hobbies that I wanted to incorporate into my life. But I think we get so busy that we don't make time for those things, and after losing someone so quickly, I was like, life is really short. Let's let's start things.
Right.
So I started going to yoga again, and then it never stopped.
So for because you're talking about how at first you couldn't even stretch down the floor and touch your toes. That is my biggest problem with yoga. Now, granted, I've only done it probably 4 or 5 times. Is there just a rhythm that you get into at some point? Because I always noticed myself watching other people trying to emulate or copy their posture. I think I'm just terrible with flexibility in general.
I think it's just a matter of practice too. A lot of people get excited about something new, and then they're not good at it, so they quit right away. And for me, that's when I very first started yoga, I kind of did that. I strayed away. I was like, it's not really my thing. And the reason being is because I couldn't do the poses that I wanted to do. I think after that, my mindset changed, and instead of being upset that I couldn't do it, I was like, how can I learn to do it? And for that, with me, that was focusing on the breath. I know that a lot of yogis say that, and it sounds kind of silly when people are like, focus on your breath, but truly it's with each inhale, you kind of recognize oh, my hamstrings are really tight. Exhale, you start to loosen up with your breath. Your body starts to loosen up too.
Yeah.
With practice, I think that eventually you can get to where you're supposed to be.
That's the one thing that I noticed, after doing it 2 times a week for a few weeks there, I could get more flexibility in my ankle, which I've always had issues with my right ankle. But yeah, I think the focus part is like the hardest thing to really zone in on. Just like meditation, which like meditation and yoga kind of get intersected together, but my thing was always like I couldn't slow down for the focus, and that's isn't with meditation you try and focus on one thing like the breath,
Right.
because you have all these different areas of focus that could be drawing your focus out towards them, but instead of thinking of all of them, you just focus on the breath, and then like you're training your mind slowly that like, hey, let's do this one at a time, and then it's the stimulation, like the there's a word for it, I'm forgetting it, but like the sensation that you get.
Yeah.
And then you focus on the sensation, or like then your mind starts to wander.
I think also people get scared of trying meditation or trying yoga immediately. It's like, I'm not good at it because my mind can't slow down.
Mm-hmm.
That's normal. It's normal for our minds to be like immediately thinking about one thing after another. I think it's just a matter of accepting that those thoughts are there and not, just like you can sit in silence right now, recognizing that there's cars going by, the fan is on, there's different noises around you, and you accept that they're there, but it doesn't mean that you're sitting there thinking, there's a car going by, what kind of car is it? You don't have to put that much thought into it. You can just accept that those things are there and move through them.
So do you think it's like a gradual process that people just, instead of being disciplined and continuing to stick with it, they give up, but like over time, it's like in the gym, the more reps you do, probably the stronger you're going to get.
Exactly.
But then also, you got to give yourself a break in between the first time you went to the gym versus the second. Your body has to recover. It's like a mental rep. Each time you do that, it's getting stronger. That recognition to be like, hey, let's
chill out.
And I think
especially just discipline is really important, and just making yourself do it. I can promise you, if you were to commit yourself 2 days a week for a month, you would notice a difference. And then you could go from that 2 days and add maybe a third day. I think a lot of people immediately, they're like, oh, I want to try yoga. I'm going to go spend $150 on this yoga membership and go 5 days a week. You get burnt out.
Yeah.
You don't go to the gym 6 days a week. You don't go exercise 6 days a week. It's the same thing. If you're trying to build up consistency and build up habit, you have to start small. Don't start with 5 days if you've never done yoga in your life.
Right.
Start with 1 day a week. And once you commit to 1 day a week for an entire month, add 2 days. Then add a third day.
What were the benefits that you started to notice over time? Because I guess I've never really gotten too far into yoga, but I have done meditation at one point, and it did work for me. And for me, it was like, it's so, I don't know if it's a breath thing, like if you really try and focus in on your breath, but then once you start to apply that to meditation, it was like every little thing that I normally would get upset about in the day just didn't matter as much, and it felt like there was more of this natural flow that I was following throughout my day. In conversations with people, I was more engaged, like I felt present. I felt like I was actually there.
Yeah.
For people watching, her dog, Atlas, is trying to get out of the kennel right now. So if you hear that...
He's trying to escape and do yoga.
She's like, I just want to get on the podcast, guys.
For me, I think that, I would say that's one of the things that I first noticed is like, even little things, I still get like really bad road rage. But little things would set me off, and immediately I'd just be like, just like all of this built up energy, and I just didn't know how to control it, so I would just rationalize things. And now I feel like I'm a lot better about just, okay, this happened, that's okay, I'm calm, like, and sometimes you gotta tell yourself, like, I am calm. There's no perfect way of, yoga's not going to take away your anger and make you just a saint, and a lot of people view yogis or whatever as that, but there's days where I'm driving and someone cuts me off and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I freak out, you know?
You forget that they're a person.
Exactly.
You're like, you're just some dumbass in a car that I want to run off the road.
I'm jumping out the window. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And then I'm like, wait a second. I am calm. I am on my way to yoga. Everything is fine.
Namaste. Fuck you, but namaste.
Exactly. It's about balance. You have to realize that we're all human. We all fuck up, and that's okay. just because you don't do yoga, it doesn't mean you don't cuss. It doesn't mean you don't drink or, you know, you're not perfect. And I think that's something that scares a lot of people that even start yoga is it's a lot like religion. A lot people that have never been to church, it's like, personally, I have dreadlocks and I'm covered in tattoos. The idea of church is like, ugh, like that's kind of intimidating.
You're Satan reincarnated. Like, get this fucking bitch out of here.
I don't want to.
With her cross, is that a cross on her arm? Might as well be.
I think people get the same idea with yoga.
Yeah.
They view it kind of like religion, and they're like, oh, I can't go to yoga because I was up all night drinking last night or whatever, and I hate that. I don't even call myself a yogi because I don't want to label myself like that. I was gonna say, like,
isn't that the dangerous thing with any activity that you partake in or you get good at is that you could become that thing? Like, you obviously get better, and like that's something that you're good at. You like teaching yoga, but like you can get caught up in that ideology, like, hey, like, oh, Maddie, it's that yoga chick that's just like, hey guys, you should really go to yoga because it's amazing and you'll be in touch with your spiritual side.
Exactly, and I don't want to be that way. I don't want to intimidate and push it on to people. If they want, like, I want everyone to just try a new thing, not because I think it's going to change you, but because I think it's good to get out of your comfort zone, just to, like, live a little, extend your knowledge in life. And try it. It can just be a simple stretch before you go for a run. It doesn't have to be the spiritual 2-hour-long class full of mantras and meditation and yoga poses. It can just simply be stretching your body.
I felt like 10 minutes was hard enough to start meditating. I don't know how people do an hour of meditation per day, because there are some people like that.
Yeah.
Like probably those yoga junkies. Like,
yeah.
I cannot function without my hour of meditation. It just doesn't work. I'm like, how though? Like, that's okay. How what is the longest time you've spent doing meditation, like in one setting?
I would say probably an hour, and that's the longest time. And it's not something that I have done every single day, and it's not even something that I intended on doing for an hour. But I set my alarm for. There's this time specifically, I set my alarm for 10 minutes. Typically, I'll set a timer. Otherwise, I'm not a perfect meditator. I'll check the time. I'm like, how long has it been? Like, what am I doing? So I normally set a timer, and I remember this time I, like, meditated through the timer. It was like I didn't even hear it. And I just kept on meditating for, like, an hour long, and then I was like, oh, shit, it's been an hour.
And you weren't, like, at the end of an hour, like, that felt like 10 minutes? Like, wouldn't you lose track of time? You'd be like, it's been a while.
I've like gone into like dreams while I'm meditating, like
really?
Lucid dreaming. I've had experiences where I've seen like something simple. I can't even say anything specifically, but you know how you'll see something and you're like, I feel like this has happened before.
Like deja vu?
Yeah, I've had during meditation had like a lucid dream where I knew I was dreaming, and then I'll wake up and then weeks later the same thing will happen in real life.
What the fuck?
And I'm just like, what
you didn't
just
take
happened?
Any shrooms before you meditated?
I was sober, no shrooms.
Yeah, I mean the closest like I can't call it a hallucination, but like one time when I meditated, I really got zoned in on the breathing, that I feel like I hit this rhythm where, you know, like if you ever scrunch your eyes really close together, like you wipe them, that you almost like see different colors, like green and yellow.
Yeah.
That was something that happened. It was like this constant circle that kept like getting smaller, that was dark, and the outside brim was green.
This happened
and
when you were meditating?
Yes. And so I don't know if that's something to do with, you know, depending on the environment. Like, I think when we were, it was me and Dakota, and we were in our apartment, and we might have had light that was coming through. Like, I guess it depends
Something
where
that's
you
interesting is because I actually was meditating 2 weeks ago in a yoga class, and you know how when, like, those old films, you would, like, turn the knob, and then you'd look in and you'd see the film would start playing.
Yeah.
I kept having that happen to me. Like, I was meditating, and then, so we were going, like, there was this method, like, you go like this, and it's calming all of the nerves. So every time I went down with my fingertips, that was me turning the knob. Then my fingertips would reach, like, here, and I would like see a childhood memory. And I don't remember what the memory was, but I remember that it was memories, and that kept happening, and every single time it kept happening. Afterwards, I asked my friend, I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what is this? Because it had never happened to me before. And he said that a lot of times that's your mind releasing trauma. Visual learners will see things like that. They'll also see colors. So that's interesting that you said that. And maybe that's connected. Maybe it's a way of your mind releasing.
Wait, who sees colors? Visual learners?
Visual learners typically will see colors while they're meditating. And I'm a visual learner.
Yeah, well, see, because, like, before this podcast, we were at Acai talking about memory and stuff, and I wonder, like, if there's just different types of, well, there obviously is, like, different types of ways that people learn, but I started to think that maybe that has something to do with your memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, things that I find, like, a lot of my memories, I can tell you what happened, but I can't tell you the specifics of the conversation, and where that might be something that's more auditory. You know what I mean? That you remember it that way.
Right.
Or like maybe there's just people
But maybe you can remember exactly what they were wearing and like the colors and what you were doing.
Right.
Even though you might not necessarily remember the exact
words. Or like I have this like, if you ever check your Snapchat memories, I'm like, that, it's kind of weird because I'm not remembering that for myself. It's like, I know that happened, but do I only know that happened because I have that Snapchat memory of it? Or can I go back into that point in time, like, zap into myself and recall, like you said, like the colors, what they were wearing, their facial mannerisms, like what they said to me. And I can't really do that. And that's what freaks me out, is like how, like, how do you fucking recall memory? Like, isn't that kind of scary? Like,
no, it is scary. I guess I just haven't thought too much into it. I can tell now that I'm definitely going to.
Yeah, now you're going to think about it?
Look back at my Snapchat memories right now.
Right. So have other people done that technique and had the same experience where they were like releasing these forms of trauma? Mm-hmm. When you saw these memories, were they a traumatic experience, or was it just something very random from your childhood?
No, I remember random things. One I remember specifically was, it was me and my brothers, we were playing Frisbee outside, and to me it's like, what was that? Why do I remember that? When it wasn't, if it's me releasing trauma, then why wasn't it a traumatic event? But then again, my brother passed away and it was still a memory up with him. So it could be connected with that. Possibly. Now,
is that like when you had that pop up in your meditation zone, did you like before that, did you remember that was a memory that you had, or once you had it when you were meditating, you were like, whoa, I forgot that had happened?
Mm-hmm. It's not something that I think about because I don't remember a lot of my childhood. So when, I'll see pictures and it's the same thing. I have a picture of me and my brother dancing at a wedding, but I don't remember the wedding at all. I don't remember that. I don't remember the picture being taken. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know if it's just because I was so young or if I let go of that. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting point how we do perceive memories.
Well, I'm starting to wonder from your experience if maybe we have access to these memories, but they're somewhat sort of suppressed.
Right.
That in the right circumstance, like if you really, took the time to learn how to meditate and you were incorporating it into your everyday life, for like, let's say you get good at it and you're doing 30 minutes or, in your case you had that.
And not even 30 minutes, even just like a consistency of it, of doing it every day.
Right. Like that maybe that would be a more helpful technique of people who have dealt with trauma to figure out a way to get through it or like release that, like unravel these memories that are there. We just don't have access to them in our conscious mind.
Right.
And also I think that with as many distractions that we have in today's world, that's probably part of it too. I think of those phones and they've probably done something to us where we're constantly stimulated. I don't think the human mind is meant to...
Well, and our bodies remember things longer, like more so than our brain does. Mm-hmm. So basically, like if you say I saw that memory and I don't remember it at all, but there obviously something during that meditation that my body felt that helped me create that remembrance and that meaning. I don't know what that meant for me to have that memory. But even say you were, Okay, let me think here. So say you grew up in an abusive home when you were younger, but you don't remember it at all. Someone now could raise their hand and you would flinch.
Right.
Even though your brain doesn't necessarily remember that being abused, your body does. And your
Right.
body has like a PTSD basically.
So do you think that, like, in the form of when you become truly relaxed and at ease, maybe that's a perfect time for yourself to replay that information and go through it? Because I think a lot of people that have dealt with trauma is that they have this story that's a little bit misconstrued, and then they suppress it and they don't want to go back and touch it, and
I
so it
think
just
that
goes unresolved in this loop where, you know, it does. In some ways, I feel like it does get pushed back. That maybe when you actually slow down, you have no distractions. Meditation is the perfect place for that. That it comes out.
And I think that's the issue too, is because we don't take the time to slow down. You know, even when we want help, I mean, I've been in therapy for an entire year, but my therapist isn't going to say, okay, we're going to sit here and meditate for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We're going to keep talking. Talking is still, even though you're releasing what you're feeling in that moment, you may not be releasing what you felt in the past because you're not taking a minute to realize what you felt in the past. You're just saying how you feel now.
Right. And I truly think that therapy is something that more people should seek out, but I feel the same way as you, that like I've been going to therapy as well, and I can't say that I've gotten a whole lot out of it. I definitely haven't given enough effort towards like the handouts that she's given me, but I feel like I can vent to you. I can vent to Dakota. I can vent to my mom. I can vent to all these people.
We vent because we don't want to take the time to sit and feel what we're feeling.
Right, and I feel like venting, although it can be very helpful in many instances, I also feel like it's a way, like when any time that someone comes up and asks me how I'm doing, and they probably know about my situation, I've told them in the past, I'm still not doing good, but I hate immediately saying that I'm not doing good because I feel like that brings the attention and focus on me. And so, like, I do feel like the venting does help, but I feel like it is a spotlight that gets put on me.
It's still distraction.
Still not, yes, exactly. Still not fixing it, and still not, like you said, like really feeling the emotion. Is sometimes you just have to be present with that emotion. And I feel like that's a way to release.
And we were talking earlier about how some people get social anxiety when they go out into social events, and maybe even those same people get that feeling sitting alone. And I think that there's a trick to, you know, to overcome anxiety. Sometimes you need to sit in the anxiety. How do I feel? Why is this making me feel this way? Maybe I need to just close my eyes and like think about that. Where does my mind go when I'm meditating? Focus on those things, because that's where.
That was the thing that I got away from meditation when I was getting good at it, is that instead of like when it was really working for me, it's like let that emotion come out. So like I feel like a lot of people our age are dealing with anxiety and depression, and obviously it's coming out more now, and I'm glad that people feel like they can talk about it. But for me, like when I got into meditation, really got into it, instead of like previously where I would let my anxiety, like, because when you have anxiety, it's this train of thought where it starts with something that'll make you anxious, but then you start to focus on your heartbeat and it starts to race, and you're like, oh my god, I'm having a heart attack, and then your mind's perceiving, you know, more anxiety on the fact of just the bodily reactions that you are having to the first form of anxiety.
Right.
But
I think it's a matter of switching that too, because, you know, instead of being like, oh my god, I'm having a heart attack, be like, oh, that's kind of like, that's cool, my heart rate is going up because I'm excited that I'm meditating. Anxiety and excitement comes from the same place. If you can trick your mind and telling yourself, oh, this is excitement, it switches your perception on it. Instead of getting freaked out that you're having a heart attack, you're like, oh, I'm excited that I'm meditating. Does that make sense?
Right, so almost give it like a different category.
You're almost like kind of lying to yourself, or maybe you're not lying to yourself because it's the same feeling. It's just telling yourself what that feeling is.
Right.
It goes back to labeling. Why do we label it anxiety? Maybe it's excitement.
Right. Well, and I think you said something earlier where people have this misconception when they get into yoga or meditation, they're looking for the spiritual experience where they also want to strip all anxiety away from them, and it's like that's just not the case. And that's what I liked about meditation. I think that was the point I was trying to get to, is that when it comes about, instead of fighting it, because I think our generation has been taught to not allow our emotions to unfold, that if you just embrace it and say like, hey, this is anxiety and I can deal with it, it's much more manageable, where it doesn't feel like it's overcoming you and then you're like, oh my god, heart's racing, and oh my god, I had a heart attack, when really it's just anxiety. Like maybe you want to go talk to a really cute chick and you're like fucking anxious, but then like you're like, oh my god, I'm dying, I can't do this.
Or you could be like, oh, I'm just really excited to go talk to this super cute chick.
Right,
and it like changes your, it does, it makes you more excited than it does anxious.
Right.
Because it is the, you know, if you're excited, say you're getting ready to go on this roller coaster and you know that feeling in your stomach right before like you go down the hill, it's like, it's the same, you're feeling anxious because it's a fucking roller coaster, but you're also like fucking excited because it's a roller coaster.
It's thrilling.
It's the same feeling.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't get rid of anxiety. It's a human emotion, and I think that if we didn't have anxiety, this life wouldn't be so, like, it wouldn't be fun.
I think we label it as a bad thing.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right. Because, like, you should get anxious if you're going to go up and ask a chick for her number. Like, if I had no anxiety about going up to that, like, that would kind of worry me.
Right.
Like, you're not afraid of anything.
Emotions, you want to have feeling.
Right. And that's how, if we're getting back to the subject of phones and stimulation, constantly being away from each other and not face-to-face, is we evolved to, we had to have these emotions and facial interactions so people could read us and know, you know, how that's like how we could communicate with each other. But, you know, now we're on this phone all the time, but everybody has social anxiety. Like, you're walled up, you're away from the world. That when you take the time to finally go out and just go to the store and get groceries, it's like, oh my god, I used to not want to go to Hy-Vee because Hy-Vee didn't have a self-checkout. I wanted to go to Walmart where I could avoid people. And now it's like, I mean, I still have it. Like, I still deal with it, but it's like, we're social creatures, and once you strip that away from us, it's weird. Things are weird.
Right.
Social anxiety starts to become a thing. Like, now I'm intimidated to go out and talk to people, and then you start worrying, like, oh, what do people think of me? And it's like, it's deadly, but we all engage with that.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, you think that everyone's staring at you, but once you look up from your phone, you realize everyone else is also...
Right, and you're like, what was I worrying about?
Yeah.
They don't care at all.
And I do the same thing, but then I'm like, am I paying attention to anyone else? No. So why would they be paying attention to me?
Right.
And I think that another thing that I think anxiety, depression, all of that has created is a lot of people are scared to show their gifts. People are scared to start a podcast. I was scared to teach yoga. I was scared to, you know, do these things that I truly enjoyed. I love writing. I've been scared to put my writings out there for people to read, but it's selfish to not share your gifts because you're anxious of what people think of you, because you could save someone by sharing that. Maybe someone had never been to a yoga class, but they saw that I was not trying to sound all cocky or whatever, but maybe
here's this fucking yogi coming in again.
Here
What the hell? Get these dreads out of here. Shave your head.
I am basically the best yogi ever. You should come teach from me. Namaste,
no, but for real,
bitches.
go to her class. Check it out.
No, but in all honesty, maybe someone was really scared to start going to yoga, but then I was like, hey, let's do yoga and have a beer. Yoga and beer. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I can drink beer. Like, that kind of makes it easier.
Right.
Offering unique things, offering your gifts could save someone out there. And it is selfish to think, I don't want to do this because I'm scared, because you could be saving someone.
What I think is important, like, in terms of social media, the only thing that I think that's come out of it that's good is that freedom of expression and creativity for people to see that. Because, I mean, it's important to be vulnerable and be honest. I like doing the same thing. I like to make long, methodical posts about how I'm truly feeling. Like, I look at people I don't care. I've gotten away from caring about likes, but I'll see chicks post pictures of just them and their girlfriends, and it's a simple fucking caption that probably took literally a millisecond to come up with in their head, but they get like 300 likes.
Right.
And then I take the time out of my day to like, 20 or 30 minutes, like a journal entry where I'm thinking of what I want to say that's thoughtful, thought-provoking. I want people to think, and then I get like 40. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell? And it's cool because you see the 40 that
because
do.
you're not showing any cleavage, Cole.
Oh, okay. So I just gotta fucking pull out my ass and my dick. Chicks want to see that. It's different. Guys won't. Well, I mean, I guess like guys that post like gym pics, they might, but.
No, I think that a lot of people don't want to take the time to challenge their mind. When they're scrolling on social media, they're scrolling to get a break from the world.
Right.
Seeing this simple little post, sometimes it's like you're gonna take the time to read life is good rather than, oh, how can you create a life that is good?
Right. That's very true. No one wants to. They see the long paragraph and they're like, fucking scroll down. Oh, tits, like.
Exactly.
More tits, like.
Life is good. Beach days.
Yeah. Do you think that's kind of a byproduct of social media? It's instant gratification, is that, and I find myself, it's even hard sometimes that I want to start a podcast. I have the great idea of like what it would look like once I have like a bunch of followers and people listening to me, but in between all that, there's a lot of work that has to be done. I don't even know, I've not spent much time editing video. I have to get new equipment. I have to come up with a name. I have to create a profile. Like there's all these things, and for us growing up with social media, everything is right at your fingertips. Like,
I think the thing is just starting, because I've done the same thing. Is there's, you see these people that, Joe Rogan, let's just say, he's got tons of followers. Everyone listens to his podcast, but he had to build himself there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool to me is seeing, like, one of my favorite bands, they've got thousands of followers. I remember when they had 5,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I got to watch them work up to towards a bigger following was so neat, because even though I didn't see their struggles, their failures from my side, I know that they went through it because they worked their asses off to get to where they are now. It's just starting small and realizing, like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have perfect abs to post an ab workout.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. That's all that matters. And believing in yourself and being passionate about it. It's cool to watch people grow rather than see this perfect person because you see a perfect person and it makes people like us feel bad about ourselves about even getting started because we don't feel adequate enough.
That's like one of the detrimental effects of social media is that you see all these people that seem like they have it all,
mm-hmm.
but in reality they could be just as depressed as you are. But they choose specific moments or highlights of their week, and it's like life isn't that grand. It's not like that all the time. Like every day you can't just wake up and expect to be like immediately happy. It's like there's gonna be days where you feel like shit and you don't want to get out of bed, but just go.
I posted pictures of me doing yoga in Guatemala while I was here in Des Moines on a rainy day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like you could choose your best moments. It's
right.
Like I'm not there now, but hey, remember that time I went to Guatemala?
Right.
Like let's post it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a good and a bad thing, because it could be. I think that the people posting it aren't trying. They could be completely innocent and just expressing their words or their like whatever. But you also have to understand that life isn't. You're not missing out. Sometimes just staying in Des Moines or staying in the town that you're from for a little bit. You don't always have to be traveling. You don't have to be doing this big, huge thing. We also have to have this downtime of not doing anything to charge ourselves so we can find that creative side.
Yes, and I think that is so important with meditation, once again, like you said, that no one's ever really taken the time to slow down. But like when you really get into it, and I can only speak from a minor experience where I was doing it for a few weeks, but I was doing it 3 times a day. Like I said, everything was enhanced. Songs, like I I had lost this itch to listen to music, and then once I started meditating, it's like everything starts to become more calm, so you hear the music.
You just appreciate the little things.
Right, exactly. And it's weird because, like, you still have the anxiety, but, like, one of the things that I remember when I got into it is I went down to the fair, the Iowa State Fair with my parents, and there's a bunch of people there, but I love to people watch, and so I was just scanning the crowd of people and didn't feel any anxiety at all. Like, I was just, like, almost accepting it and embracing it. And I'm like, this just feels so nice to just not care what other people think about me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, if you spend a life ridden with anxiety, you're kind of tense all the time, you know, and you're always just kind of waiting for, like, oh, what's going to pop out around the corner?
Yeah.
Because really, I think that's what anxiety is. If you think about our ancestors, they had saber-toothed tigers, like, mauling their children apart. And you're like, what the fuck? That's traumatic. We're always...
They just calmly watched it. Just focus on the breath.
Just try and meditate. Meanwhile, your kid's getting ripped to shreds.
Just breathe. Just fucking breathe.
Right. But if you're constantly, like, anxious all the time, you could get in a state like that where you almost detach. I mean, that's like the experiences I've had of disassociation. Is like I'm constantly in a world of worry and fear that, like, that's your body's way of coping. It's like, let's get away from this because there's been this perceived threat that's been going on for so long.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, let's just go somewhere else.
You go into like a fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm. You have adrenaline and cortisol getting released into your bloodstream, and I don't know what the effects of that are on your health, but I know that you definitely don't feel at ease when you're dealing with it, and especially if it's a prolonged period of time. Like, you know, like I talked about earlier, like I can't find a way to really maximize my sleep quality.
And I think people, a lot of times, they don't even want to start meditation because you don't have to light the incense, you don't have to be in this dark room on a nice seated pillow or whatever. You can literally be driving, turn your music off, focus on the things around you, just like accept that they're there, see the things, hear the noises, but don't name them. Still just focusing on breathing and just, you don't have to be, you could be playing, I can do yoga and meditate while I'm doing yoga. Someone could be playing the guitar and that could be meditation for them. It's just finding something that makes you feel calm and spending just a little bit of time doing that and realizing you don't have to make it anything more than what it is.
I was going to ask you, like, for people like us and everybody that are living in this world of constant stimulation, how do we get there? How do we slow down? What's the start? Is it just like simply putting electronics away, like just trying to meditate in your home?
I think it's just finding, like I said earlier, starting small. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Maybe it is sitting in a chair and meditating with your eyes closed. Or maybe it's taking 5 minutes to color in a coloring book or play your guitar or whatever. Just taking that little bit of time out of your day that you enjoy, that just makes you feel peace. You don't have to. That doesn't mean turn on the TV and not use your brain. You still want your brain to be activated, but not putting a name and thought to everything.
I was gonna say, like, since I've been struggling with sleep for so long, I've been trying to figure out, a way to get better sleep. And so they said that really you shouldn't have a TV in your room. You shouldn't even do homework in your room, just because the association of, like, you have too many things in one place. Like, like, if people can't see her apartment, but I mean, really, I would assume you probably would do it in this area, but
I live in a studio.
You got a chair, you got Atlas's couch, and then you got your bed. So this is a multifunctional room.
And that's something that I'm very excited to get out of here, because I struggle with routine in here because of those things. It's like 100% I can agree with that. Having your bedroom as like your sleep area. Yeah. Not having a TV, not watching TV, playing video games, whatever in there, because your brain, it does get confused when I wake up. When I had a bigger apartment and I had an actual bedroom, I remember, like, I'd get so excited to, like, go out into my living room and I'd do my yoga, and then I'd go into my kitchen and make my breakfast and whatever. And here it's more of, instead of a habit, it's like feels more like a chore. And I do think it's a part of being in one space, having all of my living things in one area. I don't
Right.
even think this is 500 square foot.
I was gonna say, like, it's really hard when I'm living at my parents' house. I'm like, I'm not gonna put my desk downstairs. Like, it's just my bed, and then at the end, at the foot of my bed, well, there's a little bit of space in between, but then there's my desk.
Right.
You know.
I think even switching it, like what you would do at your desk, do at the dining room table, or you know.
So since, like, I would imagine for you that since you're probably gotten pretty good at doing yoga. Okay, actually, before I ask my question, let me ask another one. Do you still find it hard sometimes to get, like, to meditate or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's days where I'm like, oh, I want to sleep in later, and sometimes I do. You have to just listen to your body, and I think that in a way that is doing yoga or doing something kind for your body, your mind, is just listening to it. But after a lot of consistency, it's something that I look forward to. It's like when you gym, you go to the gym, you lift and run. At first it felt like a chore, it was something that you had to do. Now you enjoy it, it's something you look forward to. And it's the same thing with yoga.
Right.
Is I'm like, oh, I get to, instead of saying I have to stretch my body or I have to meditate, it's switching it to, oh, I get to do this because it's good for my brain. I get to, like, viewing it more as a privilege rather than a chore.
That's a good way of looking at it. My second question, so, like, I would assume that since you've done it for so long, that it would be a little bit easier for you to get to that place, that meditation place that a lot of people are seeking. I started using Headspace, and it worked out for a while.
Is that an app?
Yeah, it's an app, and so I really liked it because I felt like I needed guidance at first.
And that's how I started too, is I started with guidance meditation, and now, yeah, I've just, something also I really enjoy doing is getting some type of movement in, some type of flow or running or something, and then meditating, because my brain is just, I've ran off all of my thoughts, or I've, flowed through them, whatever, and then it makes it a little bit easier to sit still.
I want to get into running. I have, like, a bad ankle, but I feel like that would be helpful just because when I used to run, it was almost like it's all clunky in there, but then after you run, it's like you shake everything loose, like all the nuts and bolts.
That's kind of like a meditation in itself.
That's even like, because we're talking about, everybody's ideology, like people that are religious, the ones that I respect, they say that, your religious practice doesn't mean you have to make it mandatory to go to church. Like, your time with God could be when you're running. That's when you could be talking to Him, or writing, painting a picture, listening to music. And that's kind of what you were explaining with meditation, like drawing something, wherever you find it. Like, it doesn't have to be with all the other yogis, and we go,
Right.
Or like there's the dudes.
It could be whatever you want it to be. You could be, I don't know, focusing on God or something.
Yeah. You can talk to God while you're meditating, I guess. I'm sure there's people that do it. Yeah, the thing that really got me, the few times that me and Angie went, is like, more or less like the guys that would really get into it, because they would inhale, they'd be like, ah. It sounded like they were fucking, like they were coming on some chick's ass, like, ah. You're like, dude, I couldn't focus. It's like, all right, there's one way of releasing it, but I felt like they were making too much noise.
I feel like some people do exaggerate it, yeah. They like start moaning or something.
Yeah, like getting an orgasm.
What are you doing over there?
I guess maybe if you got so deep into meditation, maybe that's what it would feel like. Fucking orgasm.
I guess I haven't gotten that deep into
No,
meditation.
not yet.
It's all about getting deep.
Well, okay, so is there like a thing that you could focus on in meditation? Like if you wanted to, like maybe you're like, I want to try and get off while meditating. Do you think that's possible? Like if you just focus on it really? Because some people repeat a mantra, like in their head when they go and meditate, like slow down.
Maybe. I'd hope that they're not doing that in the middle of class.
You see them just like air humping, like they actually think they're fucking somebody. Ah!
Just focus.
That's kind of, I don't know, that'd be interesting. I'm always proud of myself whenever I have like wet dreams, you know, because I'm like,
Same thing.
yeah, I'm like, I didn't have to try, like I just got off without trying.
Well, if you just
don't know how to respond to that.
I don't.
Well, it is
We're
3:50.
just gonna end it there.
We could, I mean, that's a really good way to end
Did you
it.
say 350?
It's
250. You scared me.
oh, my bad. I looked at my watch wrong. I thought it was 3:50. Yeah, but that's a good way to end it.
Yeah, good way to end it. Everyone go
Yeah,
practice on your wet meditations.
wet meditations? Yeah, see if you can get into it. What's your social media handle so they can follow you and all your yoga shit? You got that?
Yeah, my Instagram is just Madeline Sorenson.
Okay.
And then Atlas Yoga on Facebook. So.
Okay. Check that shit out.
Check it out.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for talking to me. I had a great time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.